Okay, this is a tutorial for Fallout 3. We are going to go over making a options menu. And the options menu is basically, you can use it for purposes of in-game, or you can use it for an options menu for your mod. And what I'm going to specifically talk about is the functionality of the scripting and how the message box system works, so that you can design your own message box system. Because while there is very good tutorials, which I'm going to go over, there is they don't really explain it very well. They don't explain how this operates so that you can understand how it works. You can just follow along or use scripting from somebody else's mod as a basis, but you might not understand exactly how it works, and that can be a big problem if you want to build a highly complex menu, one with multiple sub levels, one with sub levels on some buttons, and one with non-sub levels on buttons. So you push this, it does something, but then it comes back to the original main menu. Two things. First, you need Fallout Script Extender. I would use a stable version. If you don't know what this is, I don't know what to tell you, but you need to use this because it extends the functionality for things that we are going to use. Secondly, I would highly suggest using the geck power-up, so you don't have to make the Fallout Script Extender shortcut. Plus, this does some things like it gives you editor warnings whenever you try to compile a script, so you kind of know in general what you did wrong with the script. How this looks is basically, if you use the Fallout Script Extender for one of your mods, like say you download a mod from somebody and it says you need Fallout Script Extender, you would have to basically, instead of using the Fallout 3 executable, you would use the FOSE loader. And to use the geck, you would essentially create a shortcut for the loader, and then in the target you would put -editor, right? So this loads the main game, this loads the geck. But the geck power up, you can use it without FOSS and with FOSS, but we are going to use it with FOSS because it's very important for some of the debugging tools. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go over this. The way this works, if you don't know, there's a number of ways how to make a menu, but we're going to do one of the, I guess, more common ways, and that is to add a token to somebody's inventory. And a token is anything that's usually in this items. I like to use a cap, like a bottle cap without a name, but it's anything you can put a script on. Most people seem to use armor, right? They'll just call it whatever they want to, and then they attach the script to it. So to give some context to this, you say you have an activator that's a button or a console. So you click the console or button and it runs a script on the activator itself to add the token to the player's inventory using the player add item. And this first, whatever you call it, parameter, the first parameter is how many. How many tokens do you want to add? Well, we just want to add one. The second parameter is very important. This can be either 0 or 1, or you can just leave it blank and it will default to 0. But 0 is a regular way to add an item. So it tells you, hey, in the top right corner, you picked this up, or the note was added, or the whatever. But if you put 1 in the second perimeter place of the add item function, this will add the item silently. So nobody will be the wiser as to you adding this item, and that's very good for us to start some of these menus. So on the actual token that I just showed you, the actual token, this item right here, we will put a script, and that script will essentially be this entire thing. So let's go over this. You have your integer, which holds negative 30,000 to positive 30,000 or so. I believe that integer in this game is 8-bit, and this is the same thing as a short. So you'll often see short or int. It's the same thing, and it only holds numeric values. So what happens is the script always evaluates from the top down. So when it activates, when it adds the token to the player, it starts reading it down, and it's going to get to here, and it's going to show message. This is where it gets kind of confusing and where you really need to know what's going on. So it will evaluate the show message, but it will also end. And before it ends, it will end this block. This block will be completely ended. But then it will start down here one time. And to understand why it only runs one time, we have to understand what is going on in game mode. So this script right here will not run outside until you add the token to the player's inventory, which will start the show message and begin this game mode block. But this game mode block runs on every tick, every frame. I believe it's every frame. So if it's 30 frames per second, it's running 30 times per second until you tell it physically to stop, or to you remove the token, or you essentially manually stop it with a return. Okay, so that's what game mode does. But notice here that whenever we show a menu, we are now in menu mode. And to give you some context to this, if you go to the Fook has a number of different menus. Fook in Fallout Wanderers Edition, these are both scripts from them. I've combined them for myself, both of them. I can't release the mod because they won't let me. Go figure. But you'll notice that Fook uses menu mode, and the difference between menu mode is whenever a menu pops up, this script will keep running infinitely. It'll just keep going every single tick. It'll run over again. Same way with the Fallout Wanderers Edition. They also run it on menu mode too. So this script will not run at all until you get into a menu. So understand that. But this is much different, because this is running basically all the time when it's not in a menu. So we add the message and it evaluates to the end, and then it evaluates this one time. And it evaluates, it comes down here and it sets our integer button to get button pressed. And get button pressed, let me find my get button pressed is sort of like a function, like an internal function. So this thing this function does something, and we can set a variable to it. So we have a variable short or int, it doesn't really matter, and we just call this variable 1. And we set variable 1 to get button pressed. And this logic is a little bit backwards, but what it's saying is that get button pressed will be put into variable 1. Okay? So this whatever this returns, whatever this function returns, will be now inhabited within variable 1. And what it returns, remember we showed the message, and so the message is, just imagine the message as it's slowly forming on the screen, but this script is now evaluating once. And the I button now represents whatever the get button pressed is. And since this message is now slowly forming on the screen, we have not pressed anything. So I button will equal -1, which -1 represents a button that has not been pressed yet. So notice how Cipcis has set this up. It comes down here to evaluate this first if statement, and notice that there's else ifs. So if this isn't true, then this, check if this is true, and if this isn't true, check if this is true, and end if. And if none of this is true, just remove. But notice that I button is true. So this right here immediately will evaluate to true. And so within this, in between this if statement and this first else if statement, everything will run. This will be evaluated. And what it's evaluating to is return. So now, imagine that the menu is now forming on the screen, and this is run once, and it gets to right here. Now the script has stopped. It's completely stopped. And what we're left with is a menu. Okay, we're left with this menu and no script. So the script is not running. As opposed to a menu mode, imagine if we did that same thing and the menu mode runs, this script would be evaluating over and over and over again. It would just be constantly looping hundreds of times every few seconds. So we have this menu mode open and the script is stopped. Let's say that we want to, there's two options here. Button 0 and button 1, right? So say we only have two options, 0 and 1. And when you make a menu, you'll notice that the first option is always 0. So the index is always 0. So this represents our first option, and this represents our second option. So that's what we have here. Option 1, option 2. We'll just refer to it as 0 and 1. So there's no script running. It's stopped, but the menu's still open. We want to click option 1, right? So whenever we push the option 1 button, we flip the switch, the menu message right here will be destroyed. It will poof off the screen. But this, now that the menu message is off the screen, and this happens very, very quickly, but imagine that the menu message is off the screen now and the script now can go back into game mode. It is no longer in menu mode, it is now in game mode. Even if this interaction takes place in milliseconds in the game time, you won't notice this, but this is what's happening. So our menu has now been destroyed because we have picked option 1. Now this game mode block evaluates again from the start. So when we come down here, it sets I button to get button pressed, and what is get button pressed? 1. So this evaluates to false, so it doesn't evaluate any of this in here. So it comes down here, okay, if that's false, nope. Button 1 equals 0, oh, that's not true. else if button 1, that is true. So now we're doing this. Okay? Now, pay attention here. Once you click that button and it's destroyed, it will do option 1. The script will. And let's assume that in option 1 there is no return. So, on top of doing the option 1 block between else if and end if, there's no return statement. So this is going to also evaluate to the end. It will basically come down here, scoop this out, remove the token, and then end the script. It will end the block. Now, say that this option was just to change a variable. Here we go. Say that we have a variable short or int, same thing. It's called do something. And say that in the option, if button 1 equals option 1, what we put, so what we clicked, the do something stuff down here, all we did was we set do something to 1 or 2, for example, and then it ends if remove me. It's just going to evaluate this and then go to the end. But if it's in the game mode and it doesn't remove me, say we don't have this function that removes the token, within this game mode it will just keep running over and over again. If we don't have any of these checks and balances that he put in the script, such as stopping this if this button returns 1. So using the game mode, using the menu like this is quite dangerous if you don't have checks and balances to essentially stop the script, because it will run over and over and over. Once this game mode hits, if you don't remove the token, or if you don't make a check for it to stop the script, it will just continue to run for however long the game goes, or until you enter a menu. So just be aware of this, that you need to have some checks and balances to make sure that you can stop this script. So let us continue onward to more complex menus. So of course here he does the same thing. Well, actually, let me show you mine. This is a very complex one. It's actually not a complex one. There's just a lot of stuff in it that I'm doing. So let's just go through this and see how this evaluates. We add the token, show message starts, and remember this game mode now it's transferring to a menu mode. But how this script will work is that this will evaluate one time. Like, it will just go before it gets into menu mode. It will just keep going until it gets to menu mode. So whenever we declare a variable up here, see I declare all my variables essentially above my two begin blocks. My begin on add and my begin game mode. I declared all my variables up here. So whenever you declare a variable, it's default to 0. So if we look at this stuff, the first thing it does is it sets all my variables to what I want, and then it evaluates menu level. And since menu level has not been set to anything, it will automatically be 0. So this will be true. And notice the get button pressed. I'm setting this to this, and of course, as we know, when it first starts, no button has been pressed, So it will always evaluate to -1. And then this will stop the script. Okay? Now whenever the menu is on, now the script will be stopped. So let's go ahead and hit button 3. Or we'll just say, let's just keep it with button 0. Let's hit button 0, the top one. So now the message, of course, is destroyed. It's gone. And the script starts up again from the very beginning. Get button pressed, button now equals 0. And now it shows the message. And it sets the menu level to 1. So it evaluates into this. And so from all of these if statements, else if, else if, else if, will be skipped. Right? Because basically if this is true, all of these other else if statements are false. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one down here is true. If the first one is true, it will just scoop this out first and do it and evaluate it, and then it will essentially go down to the very end. And if there's nothing to stop it at the end, it will just keep going all the way to the end. So what this is doing is it's showing another message. And it's setting a menu level to 1. So while this is showing the message once more and it's coming onto the screen, this script is evaluating, but this script will evaluate to the end, and we will be in menu mode at that point. So of course the script will have stopped and we will be in another menu. And this other menu is right here. So now we're in this menu. So we clicked option 0, we pushed the red button, it evaluated down to this, and then ended, because there was nothing to stop it. And now let's say we want to choose option 3, right? So now the message is destroyed, and we're going to evaluate the script once more from the beginning. If menu level equals 0, this is not true anymore because we set it to 1. So let us go find where this starts. Aha! Menu level does equal 1. Remember, we had just pushed number 3, and so this menu box is destroyed. And now the script is running because we are in game mode. And it's going to set another button to get button pressed. And what was the button pressed? 3. So we will come down here through all of the checks. It will the original button was 0, right? Remember in the first message we push red button, that's 0. So this is just a check for us. But button 2 was 3. So we will come in this else if block, and we will do everything that's in between this. We will change the variable to 1, and we will show another message. And notice how on all of this stuff, we're always showing you a message. It's always showing you the message, except whenever we end it. And then we are going to set menu level to 1. And so what this is going to do is essentially start forming the message on the screen at some point in between when this fires and when this script ends, because this is happening in milliseconds. So this is going to start showing a message, it'll set menu level to 1, and this will evaluate all the way to the end unless something stops it, which it won't. And now the script will be stopped, and we will be back into the main menu, because that's the one that we, of course, showed. We showed that in button 2, option 3, right? When we clicked that button 3, we did what we needed to do in it, and now we're showing the main menu again. So now we're back at the main menu, and notice that the menu level is 0, right? So it's just going to evaluate this if block. So menu level 1 won't be evaluated. on this run. So of course though, whenever we hit that button 3, it'll evaluate to the end and the script will stop because we'll be in menu mode. So now we're back in the main menu mode. And let's look at the black switch. Say we're back in menu mode right here and we want to flip the black switch. So option number 1. So we click option number 1 and this message box is destroyed. And so it evaluates from the top again all the way down to this else if statement. So button equals 1, so it will evaluate everything in between this. So I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. That if you're going to use the Cipcis way of creating menus, you can come here and read this. It's not very long. It's not a very long article on how to create this menu, but what you probably won't learn in this is exactly how the script operates. And I hope I detailed this enough for you to show you when it starts and when it stops. And a few things you can do is, this is in the FOSS, the Fallout Script Extender. You can print C on every single time you do something. So you can print to console, that's what this is, print to console. A little note for yourself every single time this evaluates, so you can figure out when the script stops, when it doesn't stop, when it evaluates to the end. See this, I have this on the very end, so I know when the script will evaluate to the end and when it won't evaluate to the end, simply because I have these. This is basically a debugging mechanism for me, so I can determine where I'm at within the script. But no matter how complex the script gets, you could always figure it out as long as you know, okay, when I hit a button on a message box, it destroys the message box and then it runs the script again. And it runs the script again until it either loads another menu, so until I get into a menu mode, or until I physically stop it. Because remember, imagine for a moment if we clicked the black switch, but I didn't open the menu. I didn't open a menu. So what's going to happen here is it will evaluate this. When the script starts again, it will evaluate this. Say, let's assume that this if is true in some way, since there's a bunch of ors here. If this or is true, or. So let's just assume it evaluates this. But there's no show message. It will evaluate this and then go to the end, and it will just keep running and running and running and running. Well, I guess it will run until it gets to here, actually, on the next go around, and then it will stop the script. Now, it will run. If I didn't have this return here, it would just keep running forever. But since there's no menu mode, it will actually start over again and get to right here to a return. And if I didn't have this return here, it would just run forever until you get to menu mode or until you stop the game. So that is the fundamental point of this video. How this works whenever you click a button. Because when you click the button, it automatically gets out of the message box, always. And the few things that I want to point out before I go is, if you notice on the Cipcis site, he doesn't add an option for, like, everything that he sets up here for you. Let's go to the very first one. It's actually this large multi-menu. So say you have the main menu right here, right? This is the main menu. Notice that he has, the only options he shows you is submenus, right? So you click option 0, the first option, it will open up a submenu. If you click the second option, it will open up another submenu, right? But what if you want to say that we wanted to change a variable to 1, but then we wanted, and after we changed the variable to 1, we want to go back. We just want to go back to this main menu, right? We don't want to open up another menu or do all this stuff. We just want to go back. We want the menu to flash back on after we click whatever we want to do. Change a variable, etc., etc. I mean, basically, you don't want to show another message there, obviously, because if it is another message, you would have to, of course, evaluate it in another menu level. So, the black switch here, if you notice, this is the main level. This is the main menu message, right? So all the main menu 0, it's the main one that pops up with all this. So say we flip the black switch here, what's going to happen is if we set the menu level to 0 and we show the same message that we're already on, it will pop back up, of course, in the same way. And I think that goes over everything I wanted to discuss. Just be very liberal use of the print C option, and you can figure it all out for yourself.